For the past several years, John Kohler has been a mentor to social entrepreneurs at the Global Social Benefit Incubator and now also serves as an executive fellow at Santa Clara Center for Science, Technology and Society. John also manages technology investments through Redleaf Venture Management. He has been heavily involved in technology product formation and has been concentrating on internet and life science startups since 1994. His background includes 20 years of executive-level positions at technology corporations including Hewlett Packard, Silicon Graphics and Convergent Technologies Unisys. He was one of the founding executives at Netscape Communications and original founder of Redleaf Group.
Please welcome to TEDxSF, John Kohler.
Thank you and good evening. So it's been a rough couple of years. Wall Street decided to turn itself into a casino and almost broke the world economy. BP poisoned the Gulf of Mexico with an oil spill of historic proportion. And as we watch deforestation, our glaciers melt, and our fisheries collapse, the nations of the world can't even agree on the most rudimentary plan to preserve the planet. Our institutions should be able to solve these problems, but often they're part of the problem, beset with conflicting interest and conflicting agendas. So if our institutions are going to be ineffective, it leaves us with individual action. But what could individuals possibly do to have their voice heard on issues like these? How could we as a group make an impact? I think I see an answer. Maybe it's not the answer, but it's an answer. It's money. Let me be more specific. It's the future utility of money, and I'll explain. Your money is about to change. Like your music, your books, our communication, it's going digital. Your money will be turned and your coins will be turned into weightless bits of light assembled in secure packets and put on your cell phone. It will be best on your phone and not in your purse. Will this make your banking less expensive? Maybe. Will it make shopping more convenient? Probably. Could it be one of the best tools to affect economic and social change? Definitely. Something very wonderful happens when we combine our payment to a mobile platform. What we find is that for the first time in the history of money, we can add information to our transaction specific to our product interest at the moment of decision. That gives us an order of magnitude more information to play with, and our wallet, our digital wallet, becomes a vote. Think of it as coins that communicate, or for the purposes of this discussion, smart money. When you stand there at your favorite tennis shoe store and look at those shoes, your money is going to tell you whether or not they were made in a sweatshop, or if the soles on the shoe have toxic content, or the chicken that says free range actually got out and roamed. You see, this kind of breakthrough comes about with several different innovations when collected together as they arrive, make a breakthrough. I've looked for these kinds of breakthroughs in 31 years in technology companies and venture capital companies. But interestingly enough, it's my work with social entrepreneurs at the Center for Science, Technology and Society that got me thinking about how all this will come together. Let me bring you through what I see. When you think of history, and the history of money, the message is quite clear. When money changes, civilizations change. Our first coins were clay ingots issued by the temples of Sumeria in return for harvest that was deposited at the temple, and these coins could be redeemed for like harvests at a later time. Unfortunately, the value of redemption was only as good as the army guarding the temple. Nonetheless, coins, as a trusted medium of exchange, became, and the utility of that became fixed. And coins then soon took an intrinsic value of gold and silver. Ancient coins had a fixed unit of exchange and a fixed weight. Trade flourished, prosperity flourished, then our money became much more sophisticated. Skipping forward, we can match eras where monetary instruments arose and great prosperity and therefore societal investment followed. Bills of trade in the medieval ages allowed for broad supply chains. Bonds, originally used to wage war by nations, were later used for public works and investment in infrastructure such as education and health. Stocks, or the concept of collective ownership, allowed companies to invest in capital equipment, originally for ships for the East India Trading Company, but of course later for the Industrial Revolution. And as we all know in this room, we've benefited from that concept today. So the next evolutionary step for our coins is to move them to our cell. If you think about it, taking your credit card and swiping it through that terminal is the last of a series of analog acts that we haven't digitized, but we soon will. So we've heard about we can pay with our cell phone already. And this has been going on for some years. So why hasn't it happened? Well, it's really not quite true. It just hasn't happened here. We only need to look back to the behavior of the unbanked to understand the wave that's coming. The unbanked are not tech-savvy early adopters of Silicon Valley. They are people who live on less than $4 a day, and in fact, have been largely excluded from the very monetary instruments that we've enjoyed to build our economy and society. So bringing them mobile banking and payment systems to their cell phones is a good thing. There are 50 million people who use their cell phone for payment today. Most of them are in Africa, as this real-time clip of transactions shows. It's centered in Africa over areas such as Europe. But the 50 million number is even more staggering when you consider that that adoption has largely happened since 2007. But the opportunity is even bigger. Of 2.7 billion people without banking, 1 billion already have a cell phone. That's a huge target market. And it's not escaped the attention of large multinationals like these, who all already offer mobile payment systems and services, and who are racing, along with a handful of startups, to build the second generation mobile payment system, including a version for you. But what about you? Why would you change? Why would you adopt a mobile payment system when you already have a bank account and a credit card and a seamless, frictionless system that makes it all work? Because you'll want to. Here's why. If you could find out that the sneakers you're looking at really did have toxic content, or that the cotton shirt or soccer ball you're considering has child labor involved, you would care. Where does all of this information come from? Well, it comes from hundreds of de facto monitoring organizations that are already painstakingly posting up information about toxicity levels, carbon footprint, water footprint, sustainability, child labor, and so on. There are several websites, and I'll take you through a few of them so you can see the potential that I'm talking about. First of all, ISEAL is an organization that serves its members setting up standards of reporting. Its members include the Rainforest Alliance and Fair Trade. Each of those members themselves report on sustainability. String is a site, or an application actually, that is put up by Historic Futures in the UK. It culls information from hundreds of contributing companies who are working with them, and the idea is to do tracing of supply chain through complex production cycles. Walmart is one of those companies and has put a great amount of effort behind this. And you can see the string traceability if you go to Walmart online and look at their Love Earth jewelry program. Similarly, there's a database called Pharos. It is rating construction materials. This facility was built using wonderful construction materials, but unfortunately most buildings are not this green. And in fact, the toxicity levels and chemicals used are what Pharos asks the manufacturers to report on and include labor standards. Like Walmart, Google real estate, workplace services, has put a lot of effort into populating the database, and the result is a heat map of scored products over thousands of construction products. Similarly, the Good Guide here in San Francisco has already scored 65,000 consumer products, and they do so across health, society, and sustainability. By the way, the Good Guide is also available on your iPhone app. World of Good by eBay is the largest artisan site. They bring in products from developing areas of the world, and they partner with over 45 companies or services to make sure that those are sustainably made and ethically sourced. So when you put this information and from scores of other sites and make them available on your cell phone, you can see the potential. But when you're standing there in front of the poultry counter at Safeway and you're holding that suspect piece of chicken in your hand, how do you really know where it's coming from? How do you match this information to that chicken? Here's how you do it. This is a QR code. Most of you have probably seen this, but maybe didn't know what it was. It's like a barcode. QR stands for quick retrieval. But unlike a barcode, it holds 7,000 characters of information. All you do is you aim your cell phone camera at it and snap a picture, and your QR reader in your cell phone will tell you what the embedded message is, or will take you to a website or other URL that it points you to. Google is slapping QR codes on 120,000 small businesses throughout the United States as part of their Favorite Places program. The EPA is even designing this into their new label. QR codes can be used as an advertising billboard, as this one in Shibuya, Tokyo shows. It could be a lot of fun. So we are able to have a payment platform on our mobile phone. We're able to bring in information. We're able to tag it with a hyperlink called a QR code for physical objects in the physical world. What's left for adoption? So first we need, like we did with shopping sites in the early days of the internet, we need to consolidate this into a simple user interface. And second, we need adoption and awareness. Adoption by both consumers and by corporations. There was a study published at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands, and it was talking about how you change behavior, systemic change and informational change. And these were interventions. We've been talking about informational so far. But I think what we need really is awareness. And the name for awareness is radical transparency. It's a term that's recently sprung up, and it talks about the wave of consumer demand that asks corporations to become much more transparent with their practices and much more honest with their dealings with their customers. Let's look at consumers. If you were able to, the day after the Deepwater Horizon spill, find the safety scores for British Petroleum and also find out what products, plastic products, might use BP, what lever would that have given you to express your justified outrage? As a planet, we could have simply turned the BP revenue spigot off. And BP would lose, and their competitor, probably the one with the best safety score, would win. That's a huge change in the balance of power between buyer and seller. Like I said, this has not escaped corporations, and many are adopting. It's a new battleground, transparency. The Financial Times in September published an article saying we've reached the tipping point. There's enough companies adopting transparency at the behest of consumer demand that everyone will have to do it. The losers, in this case, are only those that continue to insist on bad behavior. The winners are those that adopt quickly. There are over 20,000 companies that have signed and are subscribing to the Global Reporting Initiative. Further, those companies have identified product traceability as the #1 issue facing companies in the next 10 years. The Harvard Business Review published an article similarly on what does leadership mean in the age of transparency, and they talked about if you don't lead through transparency, you risk externalities. Let's think PG&E or Dell Computers and JetBlue, who suffered some tweets or Facebook postings about their behavior, or the lead paint that was found in children's toys. All of those elicited fast response. And I think what we see is that radical transparency isn't just a phase, it's the beginning of a new wave. And the wave shifts the balance of the intelligence from the point of production to the point of consumption. So we've been talking about the relationship between buyer and seller, but I think smart money can be a huge lever for policymaking as well. Let's take a closed system like food stamps. We've seen public outcry about causes of obesity, and we've seen even governments, state and local governments, wanting to ban some of the causes, dietary causes of those diseases. What if smart money in a closed system like food stamps could have $1, say, buy $1.20 worth of carrots and potatoes? Or if it was being used to buy soda and Twinkies, would only be worth 73 cents. For the first time in 5,000 years, money would no longer be a fixed unit of exchange. It would be elastic. This could be enormously powerful and a systemic reason to change behavior. So I've been talking to you about the relationship of your new elastic smart money coin in your cell phone. And I think if you extend this even further, I could see a global unit of exchange, a new currency that rides above national or regional currencies and is part of the international monetary system. It acts as a credit. We saw that there are impact products out on the marketplace. And if you were standing in front of a counter and you saw that there was a product you wanted to buy and it was already supported by an international development organization, it could in fact dwarf the turn of consumption could in fact dwarf the entire development effort, which is about 120 billion a year, put out by the nations of the world to the developing nations of the world. So you have in your hand an iPhone app with your money securely nested in there. You can point your phone at a QR code and find information about the product you're interested in. If the product is healthy, sustainably made, or supported by international development, you might find your money buys you more. If you're buying something that's unhealthy, if you've been given your money, you might find it buys less. Really, what I want you to do is to consider this a phone that is a vote. It's essentially a referendum. You vote your money every time you make a purchase. In fact, it's a lever that transcends nations and voting cycles. Think of your money in a brand new way. Think of it as demand. When you go out and spend your money, it is in fact an investment of your demand, and your demand goes to benefit certain communities. Together, I think it could be an enormously powerful lever. What can you do now? First, download a QR app onto your iPhone or your mobile phone. Go check out a couple of and play around with the QR codes. And hopefully you'll find some of these websites I've shown you. The rest will follow. Thank you.